Welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look about how I can optimize my workflow from Flash Catalyst as a designer to Flash Builder as a developer. Now, often when I'm building more complex projects, they're going to be tied into live data or working with other APIs that are outside of Flash Catalyst. The developer is going to be working primarily in Flash Builder, using either the Flex framework or in a combination of Flex with ActionScript. When I take my designs from Flash Catalyst and hand them off to my developer, there are multiple ways in how I can optimize or make that process easier for both design and development. This project has not yet been optimized, so let's actually go in and actually do a couple things to ensure that the workflow from design to develop is as seamless as possible. The first thing you'll notice is if I go to you'll see that I don't have a scroll bar here. This is to illustrate a workflow that you can use with Flash Catalyst, which is exporting my components as a separate library. Components that are exported as a library, you can actually access that from the library panel. Right here, I can either export the library package or import from something else. Let me illustrate how you can do this inside of Flash Catalyst. I'm going to import a scroll bar that was already created by another designer. So I can import and then select that particular project. You'll notice that the file type is called FXPL. When I import this library, it's then going to add that into my components here. So now if I select my scroll bar that's imported in from that other project, I can then drag this out and then use that in my project. Let me actually double click into my data list first, and then I can drag the scroll bar out and then position. This is a scroll bar just like any other scroll bar that you can create in Flash Catalyst. It was just designed separately, and then it's being imported in as a separate library. Those libraries I can also import into Flash Builder as a separate Flex library project that my developer can then use. Another thing we can do to optimize our project a little bit more is, if you remember when we brought in that PSD from Photoshop that covered the background of the project, it actually contained a whole bunch of different images. Those were all different layers inside of the Photoshop project. If I select all of those, I can optionally rasterize all these into a specific graphic. To do that, I would go to Optimize Artwork and select Rasterize. There, now all those graphics have been flattened down into a single bitmap, and then it will be easier for me to distribute this to my developer for them to work with. The other thing I can do is make sure that all my components inside of the library are properly named, and also that all the layers of my project are named as well. This will make it a lot easier for when my developer is looking at my project through code and is able to discern food list from movie list. By default, when I create these components, they're going to be called Data List 1 or Data List 2. That's not very helpful for my developer partner. So I want to make sure that everything is uniquely named so they can quickly find everything as easy as possible. Another thing I can do to optimize my project is to take images that are rasterized or bitmap graphics that might not necessarily be part of a design time data list and have those be linked images. This means that the images are not going to be part of the actual Swift file. This will not only help the workflow from design to develop, but will also bring down the file size of the Swift when it's ultimately published. To do this, if I scroll down my library list, the images has its own section inside of the library panel. I can take a graphic. In this case, I can take the rasterized items or this gradient fade graphic or other graphics that are part of the project, right-click and say Convert to Linked Image. This will publish this as a separate file inside of the Assets project when I publish from Flash Catalyst. Finally, one other thing I can do is when I'm working with vector objects. Vector objects, sometimes when I'm working with more complex objects, can have lots of different tags that actually represent all the different paths and points and all kinds of different aspects of the graphic. A lot of times the developer doesn't want to see all that code inside of their project. So if I am working with a graphic that has lots of vector artwork, in this case my background graphic here, I can optimize this as optimized for vector graphics. This will extract the design data out from the application itself as a separate file. This will make it easier for my developer to work with the code as optimally as possible. The developer, when they actually are ready to get the project from you as a designer, you would save your project as an FXP. Inside of Flash Builder, which I have displayed here, they can then import that project as a Flux project and then load that project from the desktop. They'll then be able to import that project and then work with all the code inside of Flash Builder. You'll see that all the interactions, all the states, all the transitions have been used in the Flux framework all along the way while we have been using Flash Catalyst. And now they're available to the developer as code inside of Flash Builder. As a developer working with the code, I now have the option of bringing in live data services, working with other sorts of data like an XML source, or taking this project and distributing the development out to other people using version control. Now, if I am going to be working with designers throughout the project, they might be sending me other updated projects from Flash Catalyst. Using Builder, I can then merge and diff those projects and then bring those changes into the project. Or I could actually have the designer send me just the library of components, and then I can actually bring in only the change components that I need to work with. The workflow from Flash Catalyst to Flash Builder is really great when I actually am building a contract between design and development. I really encourage anyone that's using Flash Catalyst and Flash Builder to make sure that you meet in the beginning and establish what the parameters are going to be for how you're going to work together throughout the project. Anything you can do at the beginning of the project to build that communication between design and development will really pay off as you're building out your project. So that's Flash Catalyst. Flash Catalyst, again, is Adobe's new tool for building interaction designs, building interactivity without code, and really bridging the gap between design and development. I hope you have a great time playing with this product, and please follow me more on Adobe TV, my blog, or also follow me on Twitter, or feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks.